Call the Grimes City Council meeting of May 26th to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Roll call, please.
DePhillips. Here. Earlbeck. Here. Johansson.
Here.
Lovelady.
Here.
Borkerding.
Here.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? See none, roll call.
Earlbeck. Aye. Lovelady.
Aye.
DePhillips. Aye. Johansson.
Aye.
Borkerding.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Agenda passes. That brings us to public forum. Does anybody wish to address council at the public forum this evening?
Nobody signed up for that.
All right, I'll take it. That moves us on to item 6, approval of the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Earlbeck. Aye. DePhillips. Aye. Johansson.
Aye.
Borkerding.
Aye.
Lovelady.
Aye.
All right, we're very efficient. We're very rested. 3-day weekend. That takes us to action items. Number 1, third consideration of ordinance 812 imposing franchise fees on Black Hills Iowa Gas Utility Company LLC, Black Hills Energy and Mid-American Energy Company in the amount of 3% of the gross revenue derived from the companies from the sale and distribution of electricity and natural gas to customers within the corporate limits of the city pursuant to Iowa Code Section 364.2 and 384.3A. Jake.
Yep. Mayor and council, this is your third and final consideration of this ordinance. Again, the history of it. We talked about this at budget time. You adopted a revenue purpose statement so that the use of the funds is exclusively to fund public safety. We're doing this because our public safety needs have outpaced our property tax revenue. I think it's fairly easy to understand that House File 718 and now the new property tax law limits the ability of cities to collect property tax revenues and in high growth communities like Grimes. We got more properties developed, more people in town, more calls for service, and the revenues don't keep pace with that. So exclusively used for public safety. It'll generate $700,000 a year. The public schools have been exempted from that. Another point of clarification, the city also doesn't pay itself a franchise fee. With that, what we're looking for tonight is for you to take up the third consideration, and if that is approved, to proceed to final adoption.
Okay, thank you, Jake. We've talked about this several times. I don't know if we needed to belabor the issue a lot, but council, I do welcome any comments, or if you wish to reiterate things, that's also appropriate.
I missed the last council meeting, so I'll for lack of maybe somebody's here tonight that wasn't at the first council meeting where I covered much of my opposition to the resolution, but certainly do not desire to not fund the bulk of what this is funding, which is public safety. We do need additional resources there. I came at the problem a little bit differently and how we would fund that without the franchise fee. I certainly understand where my colleagues are coming from in supporting the franchise fee. At the end of the day, and I'll reiterate this for the sake of our community, our revenues and our expenses are going to collide. We're outpacing ourselves on the expense line item, and our revenues are not going to be there to keep up. And part of that is what Jake said. A large part of it is the Iowa legislature capping how much that property tax can grow. And so there's only so many levers that we have. This is one of them. Franchise fee can go up to 5%. And I do applaud my colleagues for showing the restraint that they did and only taking what they felt was necessary And we had really good discussion around that. So while I'll be voting no tonight, what this money is going to fund is largely needed. So
Yeah, thanks for those words, Councilmember Johansson. And I do want to say, I guess one thing, and you made me think about it with your comments. I do really appreciate the work of council up here. So Eric, I think it's clear what he said. He's a no. We have people who are up to 5. And so, kind of what's the middle ground? What do we think, by and large, the residents could stomach and feel like is the right thing, et cetera. And so I do appreciate the lengthy amount of conversation and compromise that happened up here, and all done in a very respectful manner on all parties. So in today's climate, that's really valuable, and I appreciate that. So thank you to everybody up here. Other comments or?
No other comments. I'll go ahead and move third consideration of ordinance 812.
I'll second.
Okay, been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Workerding.
Aye.
Lovelady.
Aye.
Johansson.
no.
Earlbeck.
Aye.
Phillips.
Aye.
All right, that passes, and I know you wanted it.
Old habits die hard. We're always in consensus on so much.
Is there a motion for final passage?
Yeah, I'll move final passage of consideration ordinance 812.
And I'll second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Workerding.
Aye.
Lovelady.
Aye.
Phillips.
Aye.
Johansson.
No.
Earlbeck.
Aye.
All right, and that passes. Thank you to everybody for your work on that. And thank you to citizens as well. Lots of citizens asked really good questions about that, so I appreciate the engagement there. That brings us to item 2, Heritage Town Center Phase 2B Site Plan Amendment. And Evan.
All right, so this is for the Heritage Town Center located at 1120 Northeast Station Crossing. It's zoned R4 as part of the Heritage at Grimes PUD. And the site in question is the remaining kind of vacant portion in front of the existing basketball facility, approximately a half acre. So the proposal is for a 32,000 square foot retail and office building that would be built right in front of that existing building where the basketball facility is located. The site improvements, other than the building, will be very minimal, as most of them were already constructed with the phase 2 project with the basketball facility. So this site will include walkways in between the building to lead up to the retail entrances. There is a bit of a grade change, so there will be some stairs, 4 sets, and then the main entrance will be at grade. There will also be connections to that existing sidewalk in front of the building. And then potential space for some outdoor patios should there be a future tenant that would desire that. And then there will also be a parking lot located to the west of the building. So the building is shown here. There'll be 95 spaces within that parking lot across all current phases of the town center. 466 spaces are required. With this parking lot, that will bring it up to 513 spaces for all the existing and proposed uses on site. Additional sidewalk will be constructed around the parking lot and connect it to the existing buildings within the town center. And then some of the stalls here will be converted to ADA stalls. And then the south portion of this lot will still be able to be developed with future phases. Utilities, very minimal, just adding the services to the building. The stormwater basin is already located to the west in Heritage. And then there will be some landscaping beds between those front entryways and the existing sidewalk in front of the building. And then additional landscaping around the parking lot and within the landscaping islands of the parking lot. And then these are the elevations. So it is a 3-story building. The first floor would be retail with 2 levels above for office. They'll have the storefront entryways and glazing on the bottom floor and continuing that glazing on the second floor. The third floor will be approximately half the depth of the first 2 floors, and then there will be a balcony up above for those tenants to utilize. The building will be primarily brick, and then with that glazing, the top story will have like a paneling system. And then these areas here will be precast to tie it into the existing precast building there. So it'll all tie in. And then there'll be lighting at the ground level and then up above for those balcony units. And then the Heritage Review Committee did review this since it's in Heritage. They liked the look of the building. Their only comment was to request that the building utilize similar brick colors, which I believe the building will be. So there's a gray and like a red brick on the existing building, and kind of this corner will be more of that gray brick, and then the rest would be similar to the red brick. So I think they're kind of meeting that intent. I think that was my last slide. So we're excited about the project. Bringing Class A office to Grimes is important for, getting those daytime population and getting those things that our residents are wanting, like all the retail and restaurants. So we need the daytime population to bring that to Grimes. So exciting to see that. Happy to answer any questions that you may have, and staff would recommend approval.
All right, thank you, Evan. I'm gonna kick it over to Mr. Johansson first.
Yeah, before we get started on any conversation, I'll be recusing myself on this discussion and the vote on this. While I don't have a financial interest in this project or have any financial tie to it, I do work for the developer, and so for that reason alone, just to avoid any even perception of an interest, I'll be recusing myself from the conversation and the vote.
Thank you, Eric. Yeah, so council, before we start, I just want to say a couple things. I do appreciate the more parking than is required. Parking is always an issue, especially around these sports facilities, and so I appreciate the effort on that. Parking doesn't make money, and so that's a hard thing to do. So yeah, appreciate it. I do want to note you mentioned office space. Thank you, Evan. Bringing in spaces like that is really vital. It's a big thing we want to attract. We hear all the time we want more restaurants. You can't drive restaurants without those lunch crowds. You can't drive those lunch crowds without these higher class office space. So it's really great to see that that's a component of this. But I just really want to point out, related to that, we have an incentive on the books to help drive that kind of office space, and this developer is not pursuing that incentive. And I think that's really important to know, considering the amount of discussion that has not always been so kind that this developer has received, and they very much could have gone after that incentive. I think it's very likely they could have earned a portion of that, but they chose not to. And they still care about the town. They're still putting their money into the town. So I just want to say thank you, for just continuing to bring these kind of businesses. I appreciate Al's. I love it. Pink Couch. I think that was Business of the Year for the Chamber this last year. I hope to see a lot more great businesses being brought into town by this area. So that's the only comments I had. Council, any other comments or suggestions or anything?
No, I think it looks great. I mean, I think, when this originally came to P and Z a while back, they were curious as to, hey, when's this gonna happen? When's the storefront gonna happen? So I think everybody's excited to see this part of the project coming ahead, and it turned out another fantastic looking project. So City of Grimes is lucky to have the developer in town for sure.
Just had a clarifying question. So this is going to be adjoined to the basketball facility that's got the plain facade right now. This will be the front of it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so it will just directly, this kind of line here is the existing building. It will just right abut next to it. It's a separate building though, but
Okay.
yes.
So in between is just like an alleyway, I assume, or
You won't see anything. It'll be,
it won't even have a transition. It'll just be adjoined.
yeah,
Adjoined but separate.
yes.
Any further comments or action?
Not, I can move to approve the Heritage Town Center Phase 2B site plan amendment.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Earlbeck,
Aye.
Borkerding,
Aye.
DePhillips.
Aye.
Lovelady,
Aye.
Johansson.
Abstain.
All right, that passes. Thank you very much. Thank you, Evan. But we get more, Evan. So next is Unity Point Clinic Grimes site plan amendment and request for waiver of requirements to allow clear glass to be raised above eye level. Right.
All right, so this is for Unity Point Clinic at 101 Southeast Destination Drive. Zoning is C2 commercial, and it's within the transportation corridor overlay and zone 2 of Highway 141. This is another project adding office to Grimes. So they're adding a 3,300 square foot addition onto their existing building, which is shown in this orangey color. And with that, they are reconfiguring some of the drives. So they need to rebuild it around the new addition, and they're adding 17 new parking stalls on site. And then they do have some space for some additional future parking. And then to accommodate those changes, they do need to redesign the detention basin on site. And this just kind of shows some of the demos. So this red was the existing drive that went around. So they're just extending it around, and then they needed to remove the trash enclosure here and then relocate it to the other side of the drive. This just shows that detention basin and then just adding the storm sewer, no other utility needs. Landscaping, they'll be extending it further along East First Street and then some additional plantings around the pavement area of the new drive. And then this is the new elevation. So shown on the screen is the entire elevation. The portions in the boxes are the new elevation. So you can see they blend in pretty well with the existing building, utilizing the same building materials with the red brick and the brick with the like banding across. And then EFIS on the top of the building. And then the windows are using the same design throughout the building. And then the new trash enclosure will be brick to match. Now I'm going to go into the waiver request, which is to allow cleared glass to be raised above eye level. The transportation corridor overlay requires that there be eye level clear glass on the buildings to provide a pedestrian character along the corridor. To grant a waiver like this, it can't be for reasons of cost, aesthetics, or business preferences. It can only be reasons of safety, topographic conditions, or engineering issues. So this is the enlarged kind of glass area that would be on that north elevation on East First Street. The very top portion would be the clear portion, and then the bottom would be a spandrel glazing. It would still look like a window, just the bottom portion can't see through, so it's not clear. But they are meeting all the other requirements for the glazing of how much is required across the building in terms of area and length across the building. The request is for the reason of safety. So the applicant has their exam rooms on that north side of the building. Those windows face East First Street. So they want to protect those exam rooms and the privacy and safety of their patients. So lowering that glazing would create visibility into the unit. So they just raised it above eye level. And then just some staff analysis. This is a HIPAA compliance issue for a healthcare facility. They've met all the other requirements of the glazing. They're just raising the clear portion to be above eye level. And just something to consider whenever granting a waiver, just whatever, when you grant something, considering the possible precedent it would create. And then just the general kind of idea of the transportation corridor is preserving the aesthetics along those corridors. So that's what those regulations are for. Happy to answer any questions you may have. Staff would recommend approval of the site plan and the waiver.
Yeah, thank you, Evan. I just want to say, council, that discussing this last week, as I just kind of preparing for this meeting, just really appreciate the applicant's work to find a solution. They very well could have bricked all the way to that top kind of segment and try to go that route or something, and they chose to try to create an aesthetically pleasing look that fits the corridor and as we would expect. And so I appreciate their solution, and the waiver seems to make sense to me for the reasons stated, for what that's worth. But council, any comments on this or passage?
I'd echo your comments. I think the expansion looks great. Big thanks to Unity Point for expanding in Grimes. We've got a growing community and we need growing healthcare providers to help service our population and provide great quality healthcare. So really appreciate that. I'd echo Mayor Gish's points. I think it looks great. That's what the ordinance is going for. The waiver makes sense. There is clearly a HIPAA and safety consideration at play here. And so makes all the sense in the world to have kind of the see-through portion or the natural light portion up top and not down below at eye level. So appreciate it.
Have we ever granted a waiver for a similar project in the past? Do you know?
I don't know specifically to this issue. The reasonings for granting a waiver have been restricted in 2019. Before that, you could be granted a waiver really for any reason. But since 2019, those have been restricted to the three kind of reasons. But I don't believe we had one specific for like a clear glass like this.
I don't recall one in my time either, since we made that change.
The only one I can recall is maybe on a warehouse building. They moved the windows up high because they had forklifts going in. I think we had one of those. Maybe I can't recall if that required a waiver or not, but we worked with them to move the windows where it made sense to provide the natural light. Did other architectural elements similar to this case.
Yeah, I mean, I can't quite recall that specific.
I don't know that it was
But
an actual waiver though.
yeah, I mean, just the background on it, we had every project that came in, the whole district came with a waiver request, until we adopted that ordinance to narrow the purposes.
Right.
And since we've done that, I don't know that, it's hard for me to draw an example.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know that.
Yeah, in my 6 years, we've only done 2 waivers, so. And this is one of the 2.
Any other comments or action?
There's no other comments. I'll move approval of the Unity Point Clinic Grimes site plan amendment and request for waiver of requirements to allow clear glass to be raised above eye level for approval.
Second.
Okay, been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Johansson,
Aye.
Earlbeck,
Aye.
DePhillips. Aye. Lovelady,
Aye.
Borkerting.
All right.
All right, that passes. Thank you, Evan. That brings us to discussion items, staff reports.
Mr. Mayor, I have no report.
Mayor and city council reports. My only thing as mayor is, we do have a workshop right after this. So if you're wanting more, you can stick around. Otherwise, that's it for me. Council?
Just as the representative on the Central Iowa Waterworks Board, I'd like to remind everybody to check your sprinkler heads, conserve water where necessary, but go out there and have a fun summer. The Central Iowa Waterworks Board has placed out on social media a number of educational materials on things that you can do to reduce your water usage if you so choose. So they've been a great board to work with. They're doing a lot of great things. So that's it.
Thank you. Any others? All right, with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. We are adjourned. Thank you.